All right, thank you very much, Madam Clerk, Deputy Clerk. Members of council and members of the public, welcome to our council chambers. This is the regular council meeting of Tuesday, June the 4th, 2024. We don't normally meet on a Tuesday, but we're very grateful that you're here to join us on this Tuesday for our regular meeting. Council has a regular agenda in front of us, so I'll begin with the land acknowledgement. We'll begin with, like to begin our meeting by recognizing the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people of Canada as traditional stewards and caretakers of the land. And we acknowledge that Clearview Township is located within the boundaries of Treaty 18, the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, the Chiatanati, the Wendat, and is the home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people as part of an intricate nationhood that reaches across Turtle Island. At this time of truth and reconciliation, we welcome the opportunity to work together towards new understandings and new relationships and ask the Creator for guidance in all that we do. As always, I say the land acknowledgement voluntarily, and I'm honored to do so as the mayor of this beautiful township. Council, we're moved to our regular agenda, and there were no closed items, so we'll move to item 2, approval of the agenda. Be it resolved, Council of the Township Clearview hereby approve the agenda dated June 4th, 2024, as presented. Mover, Mr. Broderick, and the Deputy Mayor. Thank you. Any questions on the agenda? Seeing none, I'll call the motion. All in favor? That carries unanimous. Thank you very much. Council will move on to disclosure, pecuniary interest, and general nature thereof. Anybody have any disclosures for today's meeting? Yes, Mr. Beelan.
Yeah, for the Committee of Adjustments, Appendix G, I have to excuse myself from that.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
I don't think we vote on it. We just vote to receive the report.
I think you can vote to receive the report. I wouldn't want to give you advice. If you want to declare, that's fine.
I'll declare. Yep.
But it's there's usually no discussion. If there is discussion, maybe you could withdraw at that point.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, good call. Thank you for checking. Public participation period is next, unless there's nothing further on disclosures. Okay, we're going to go to public participation period next. And so, as always, I'd like to check with our clerk's department. Madam Deputy Clerk, has there been any electronic participations?
No, Your Worship, there hasn't.
Okay, thank you very much, Deputy Clerk. So for public participation, please be advised comments and views expressed under public participation period are not the views of the Township of Clearview, Council, or the administration. Public participation is limited to 15 minutes. Each person is limited to 5 minutes. Questions or comments are being directed to the mayor, and questions shall not refer to a personnel matter, litigation, or potential litigation, or planning matters that have already had a public meeting, or any item considered confidential. And as always, please remember to share the time with your fellow citizens. Are there any members of the public who would like to come forward during public participation period? Going once, going twice. And we'll close public participation period. Thank you very much. Deputations and presentations. Council, we're going to move right over to item 5.1, Baker Tilly. We do have Jay Anstey. He's a partner with Baker Tilly. He has the audit for the 2022 consolidated financial report. And he has a letter as well confirming that. Jay, welcome to the Township Council. You're welcome to come up to the podium. I believe you have a full presentation for us. Terrific. Let's make sure your microphone's working. I know we want to check that. Yes. Nice to hear you, sir. Oh, just before you go, the deputy mayor is flagging me. Go ahead.
I just want to make a comment, Your Worship, that I don't know if we should be nice to him or tough to him, because I think he did beat us at golf yesterday.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
So I think it's important that.
Well, I'm going to count on all of my fellow councillors to ask some very pointed questions to the representative from Baker Tilly today. Baker Tilly, we believe in hiring good golfers.
Thank you for having me here tonight, Your Worship and members of council, and good to see you all again. I'm a little dehydrated after being out in the sun all day yesterday, so you have to excuse me if I have to take an extra couple of drinks here. But as Mayor Measures did mention, I am here to present the 2022 audit results and the brief summary of the financial position as of the end of 2022. If you want to move to the first slide. It being 2022, you will recall I was here last summer. It was in July of 2023, where I was presenting the 2021 financial statements. We had started this audit of the 2022 financial year in fall of 2023 with the goal of being here to present by the end of 2023. Unfortunately, by the time we did finish the audit procedures and then some of the adjustments that had to occur at the end of that, we ended up working through early winter of 2024, and that's why we are here today. Looking forward, we are going to again try for a 2023 audit throughout the later half of 2024, and again be here later in this calendar year to be here to present 2023 audited financial statements. But as we are here tonight, we do have audited financial statements in draft form. They are unqualified audited financial statements. So that means they are free from material misstatement. As I mentioned, we do go through an audit process and there are adjustments along the way. We work with management to make adjustments. It's not unusual as a part of any audit for us to come along and find adjustments. And some of these are us working with management and working together on how to best present something in accordance with public sector accounting standards. The financial statements presented tonight are consolidated, so they do include the activity of various boards such as the library, BIA, cemeteries, recreation boards. And the audit report itself is dated today for anticipated council approval. There is also a letter attached to tonight's council agenda that is our audit reporting letter communicating certain requirements as part of our audit to you. Largely that it was a no issues audit. Again, it does note that there were some delays just in getting some information, but we are here tonight to present the finals. In addition, there is a letter that we submit to management with recommended internal control improvements, and we have reviewed that letter with management, and they are in the process of implementing some of those. So it is something that we, as auditors, do work directly with management on. Next slide. Looking at a review of the 2022 fiscal year, and in front of you have a snapshot of the operations of the year, including a budget and a prior year column. Looking at actual revenues of 2022 of $30 million, this compared to the prior year, you'll see a $2.9 million increase of revenues year over year. The main reasons for the increases are taxation revenue in 2022 of $18.7 million, increased by $620,000 over 2021, and that was from a budgeted approximate 3% increase. As well as user charges of $6.5 million. They, mainly in recreation revenue, we saw a $1.1 million increase in revenue from recreation. Again, 2021, we're just coming out of COVID. So in 2022, recreation was back into full swing. So it was really just a recovery from COVID year between those 2 years why we saw the increase in user charge revenue. When we compare the operating revenues of $30 million to the budget of $28 million, the $1.8 million over budget, the main area is from government grants, which were $835,000 over the budgeted amount. The OCFA grant came in at $500,000 over the prior year, as well as some other smaller grants that were received that weren't included in the budget. Looking at operating expenditures for the year, one important thing to note, and I note this every time I'm here presenting to any council, actual operating expenditures of $28 million does include amortization expense. And that's the systematic depreciation of capital assets. It's a non-cash item. It is the accounting measurement of depreciating the assets. So that $28 million includes $4 million of amortization expense. The operating budget does not include that amount, the $22 million. So let's remove the $4 million from the $28 million. Then we're actually at a net $1.3 million over budget. The main area that expenses were over budget during the year were maintenance on the standard treatment plant, which you'll all recall approving some unexpected expenditures through the 2020 year on that. There's approximately $720,000 spent there. Looking at operating expenditures year over year, the increases, again, $900,000 increase in recreation expenses. So along with the increased recreation revenue back in full swing, then recreation expenses increased as well, just as operations got back up to normal capacity. As well as salaries were up $876,000 year over year. And that's a combination of annual inflationary adjustments and some pay equity, as well as new positions within the township as it has been increasing and growing. So looking at net revenues of $2 million, again, I'm going to back out that amortization expenditure, and we're up to $6 million of net revenue from operations. And this directly feeds into reserves, which I will refer to later in my presentation. And then that brings us down to capital and other revenues of $7.6 million. And we always break this out, and it's important for the public to understand that this $7.6 million is money that comes in and goes right back out to expenditure on tangible capital assets. So that's the roads and bridges and buildings. And this isn't money that the taxation revenue is being raised for and the township is sitting on in cash. It is directly related to tangible capital assets. So this brings us to the annual surplus of 9.67 million, but again, combined with the reserve transfers and the capital portions. So moving on to the ending financial position as of the end of 2022, here's a snapshot of all the financial assets for the municipality at the end of 2022. A approximately $3 million increase, and overall, at this point, I would say it's a very strong financial position in terms of cash liquidity, having enough cash assets to cover current liabilities and to back up reserves is where I'd put that. There's a risk indicator here to is there enough cash to cover current liabilities well under the low risk range and right around the provincial average in this municipality. On the liability side, one of the main liabilities is deferred revenue and from the obligatory reserve funds. Of course, these are monies received that are for a specific external funding, whether there's an act such as Development Charges Act or a government grant that hasn't been spent where there are stipulations attached to those grants. The $12.7 million, the majority of it is made up of the development charges of 7.2 million. And you do see a 1.5 million net increase in development charges year over year. Throughout the year, there was $5.6 million of development charges collected and $4.9 million used. This is a large uptick in activity given the extremely high volume of development that was occurring in 2022. When we look at 2021 development charges, there's only $3.1 million collected. So we're seeing a large uptick in building permits issued and development charges that are going along with those. And the other point to note, though, that while there was 5.6 collected and 4.9 used, that doesn't equal a net decrease. Where the decrease comes in is some of the development charges collected through the year. There was 1.5 million that went to repay overdrawn development charges or development charges borrowed from other reserves to repay those. It was approximately $3 million balance at the end of 2021 overdrawn, and now we're down to 1.5 million drawn. So we're getting close to repaying those overdrawn development charges that we've been talking about for several years here in Clearview. So great to see that being cut in half. One of the biggest decreases we've seen year over year. Long-term liabilities of $16.7 million, a $1 million decrease year over year. There was no new debts taken on throughout the 2022 fiscal year. So $1 million in principal repayments, as well as there was $500,000 spent on interest charges related to that debt. So of the $1.5 million in total debt servicing between principal and interest payments, this is compared to a $6.7 million annual repayment limit. So sitting around a 23% of the annual debt repayment limit. This is hovering right on the edge of the low risk into the moderate risk area for total debt servicing. And then as well, you'll see the financial indicator here that Clearview of the debt repayments, again, that 1.5 million debt servicing compared to the own source of revenue, that's taxation user charges, about 5.9% of that revenue raised goes towards debt servicing. So again, just hovering just above the low risk range, but well below the high risk range. So that the overall debt servicing is in that moderate, just kind of creeping up to that position. And then finally, net financial assets. Again, when we looked at the first slide of financial assets of 49 million, and we compare that to total liabilities, the municipality does have enough cash and items that are going to be converted to cash accounts receivable that they could cover all of their financial liability. So again, that's where I was referring to a very strong financial position in that regard, and well above, you could be in a net debt position and still be in a low risk range, but well into that low risk range here. Tangible capital assets I mentioned earlier, and again, just like development on the developer and building permit side, big year in 2022 of tangible capital assets, a $7.7 million net increase, and that's $12.2 million of additions, less $1 million of disposals of tangible capital assets, and then that $4.2 million of amortization expense that I referred to earlier, that gives us the $7.7 million net increase. In 2022, some of the additions included buildings of $3.4 million, including the new Lowell Public Works building, vehicles of $1 million that included the fire pumper, water and wastewater infrastructure additions of $2.5 million that included work on Lock Avenue and Concession 10, as well as roads projects that included those same projects, as well as several bridges that are in that category. And then the one category we call construction in progress projects that are underway or not done. $4.7 million was spent on the Klondike Park Road, and then as well as more work on Concession 10 and some other well work that was ongoing. And then finally is accumulated surplus. And again, a very important concept to understand. It's the bottom line on each page of the financial statements that you see. And often people think that this is what the municipality has in cash in the bank or investments. But the $149 million of accumulated surplus, 126 million of that is tied up in the tangible capital assets of the municipality. And that's that $141 million I just referred to on the last slide, less than debt that is used to acquire those, for a net amount of $126 million invested in the municipality's own roads and bridges and infrastructure equipment. Separately, and then the next three: overdrawn development charges, general surplus, and reserves. They could be grouped together. I've broken them out here for presentation purposes, but again, those overdrawn development charges, that's exactly what I was referring to previously, that we've cut that balance in half throughout the replenishment of those through DCs collected throughout 2022. The general surplus, which includes surpluses of various departments, as well as those consolidated entities, the hall boards, the cemeteries, BIA. Those are just surpluses accumulated but unallocated to a specific reserve. And then reserves and reserve funds are where council has earmarked and specifically made a transfer to reserve, either as budgeted or based on council motion. The main area here that I'll focus on is the reserves and reserve funds of $13.4 million, a $1.7 million net decrease from 2021. And while there was $4.6 million transferred into these reserves throughout 2022, there was $6.2 million drawn from the reserves. $1 million to cover, again, the water treatment plant, unexpected expenditures there, as well as about $5 million spent to fund the tangible capital assets and similar ones that I referred to on those tangible capital asset slides. When we look at reserves as a percentage of operating expenses, again, Clearview is in the low risk area where there's enough reserves to cover 47% of 1 year's annual operating expenditures, so well into the low risk range there. Those are the financial highlights that I wanted to go over. I'm happy to field any questions, but I'll turn it over back to you, Mayor Measures.
Thank you very much, Jay. I appreciate your report and your thoroughness of you and your colleagues to help us with this audit. So thank you very much. Members of council, do you have any questions to Jay and or the treasurer, who also was very much involved? Member of council? Yes, Paul, go right ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Jay, couple of questions, things you hit on. The $4 million in amortization expenses, is that an arbitrary one? Did you make the decision? Do we make the decision on what to make adjustments for?
So through Your Worship, that is a town policy, that there is a specific policy in place, a tangible capital asset policy, where there are certain rates set based on the type of asset acquired and really looking at the useful life of the asset. So we take a vehicle and say it's a 10-year useful life, and so we depreciate 10% of the original cost of that vehicle over 10 years. So we
okay. So there's no flexibility, and why I'm looking at is that when we have surpluses or shortfalls, I mean, amortization is a great way to play with non-cash expenses, so to speak. Second question, I'll call it your current ratio. When we have a surplus of 7.3 million, does the government stipulate what your what ratios we keep? I mean, we obviously have good liquidity in what we have, but do they specify that we can't go in the negatives with that, or is there any stipulation in that regards? It was 7.391. It was about the third slide. Let me go back up.
I think I'm on slide 7. So yeah, it was the net financial assets of 7.3, I believe you're referring to.
Right.
And so when I look at the financial indicators, and this is just a risk rating, these aren't hard and fast rules by any means, but it could raise flag. But so the province is low risk, you would have to be in a net debt position, so have more liabilities than assets by 50%. Or more that compared to your own source revenues. So it's not necessarily it's that ratio compared to your own revenues,
Okay.
but by being in a positive position there, it's clearly in the low risk area.
Okay.
One thing with that, it's not even the current ratio because that includes all liabilities. So that would be using your cash accounts receivable that are fairly liquid and you expect to collect within a year. And that's comparing to total long-term liabilities as well, which are over some 20, 30 years of debentures, right? So it's very, very healthy in that way.
Good. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Deputy Mayor. And I see Councillor Beelan. Go right ahead, sir.
Thank you, Your Worship. On your consolidated statement of operations, you have the capital and other revenues at 53 million. Then you have the footnote saying it depends on the timing of projects that span several years. Do you know which projects, how many, and when those years ends, or is that too much to ask?
Through
Could that,
your worship, it's probably a little bit much to ask with me on the spot, but when I guess I could turn over to Treasurer McDonald.
Madam Treasurer.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Councillor Beelan. We do have a very specific listing of our work in progress. So if you'd like to stop by and have a look, I'm more than happy to share that information.
thank you.
Bring a coffee. Does anyone else have any questions to, yes, Mr. Broderick?
Thank you, Your Worship. Under the reserves and reserve funds, we have Clearview at 47%, province at 90%. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, and so the provincial figure is the lower tier provincial average. So, and what this ratio is showing is, do we have enough reserves to cover operating expenditures if, say, one of the grants that we use in a year were to significantly decrease? I think the other thing to factor in here is this is including all reserves, which includes reserves for tangible capital assets that you're marking for future repairs and replacement. So I think, and what the province is driving is building up these reserves to replace future tangible capital assets. But then at the same time, we're talking about comparing to operating revenues. So it's a little bit of a weird ratio that way. Like it's not just the current reserve. There is a reserve for current purposes or a contingency fund reserve, but that also does include tangible capital assets. I think where the gap would be with Clearview is the tangible capital asset reserve compared to the average.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Broderick. Councillors, anything further? Any other last questions or comments? All right. I would have just one quick question going to our treasurer. Now that we've received the 2022, what is the next steps that you and your department will do with this? Now, I mean, I appreciate getting this audit and we do understand we have to get caught up, but where are we at this stage right now then?
Thank you, Worship. So once council, assuming council approves the financial statements as audited and presented, they will be sent out to various outside agencies, so the province, banking authorities, things like that. They'll then be posted on our website, and then we'll start all over for 2023.
That's what I figured, but thank you very much for clarifying. All right, if there's nothing further, I want to thank you, Jay, and your team once again for your audit and your work. And I appreciate having you here tonight to make your presentation.
Great, thank you, Your Worship.
All the best, and thank you for joining us at the Small Hall Festival Golf Tournament as well.
Thank you. A great event, and I hope it becomes an annual.
It was a great event for sure. All right. Okay, Council, we're going to move on then in our agenda. We have another presentation from Awake Canada, the Municipal Cemetery Adoption Program. I believe there are two presenters. So there we go. You've got microphones that you can share. You're both going up there or just one?
I'll be speaking, Your
I didn't
Honor.
get a chance to meet
She'll
on
be
who's
joining
who,
for
so,
Q&A.
okay, there you go. How about you introduce yourself, because I didn't get a chance to meet either one of you.
Good evening, Your Worship, Council, Clearview staff, as well as community. I'm Amanda Kelly. This is Lauren Andrew. We are the co-founders of Awake. We are Canadian leaders in sustainable cemetery solutions. And in particular, we specialize in memorial scattering gardens where families can spread their loved ones' ashes in nature. We are a small local business, started in Oro-Medonte and rapidly scaling across Ontario and Canada. We are excited to be here tonight to talk to you about how we are helping municipal cemeteries in particular to reach environmental and financial sustainability. Okay, now we're on this slide. We'll just stay here for a moment. All right, so I'm going to go out on a limb and say that not everyone here is a death expert. So I wanted to share a little bit of background on our stats across Canada. You likely know, though perhaps don't think very much about, but 100% of us in Canada and in this region will die one day. What may surprise you is that 86% of us in Ontario choose cremation. This is a number that has been increasing dramatically every year since the 1980s. When surveyed, 60% of people report that they would like their ashes in nature. Next slide. But there's two problems. One, cemeteries as we know them just aren't designed for this. They're designed predominantly for casket burials. And today's families are making different consumer choices and have different traditions than families in the past few hundred years have made. This has led to significant challenges when it comes to ongoing operations of cemeteries, as this council well knows, regarding funding and also regarding availability of space. We've spoken to municipalities, municipal cemeteries, who, despite inheriting multiple abandoned cemeteries, simply have no available capacity, which is resulting in their residents, their lifelong residents, when the time comes, being laid to rest somewhere else. It's heartbreaking. The second problem is that cremated remains, or as we call them, ashes, are actually toxic to plants and soil, causing dramatic damage to landscaping as well as to ecosystems when placed in the ground. Next slide, please. While I won't dive too deeply into the science, because I do have a habit of doing that, one of the reasons for this is that the pH of cremated remains is simply astronomically high, comparable actually to bleach. Now, if you can picture going into your backyard and pouring a jug of bleach into your garden, you can probably imagine what the results of that would be. But now, if we can imagine 86% of the residents of our communities doing the same, and in a limited number of cemetery spaces, now you can begin to picture the scale of the environmental impact that we're talking about here. Next slide, please. So to recap, our cemeteries are dealing with two very fundamental challenges: design and science. So what are we doing about it? Next slide. Our team has worked with scientists around the world to develop and patent a soil solution that literally converts cremated remains into living organic earth. Our solution balances 22 biochemical elements of ashes so that they nourish new life and actually can become one with nature. We're using this technology for a program that we refer to as the MCAP, the Municipal Cemetery Adoption Program. And the MCAP is helping municipal cemeteries to convert unused available cemetery space into eco-friendly scattering gardens. Affordable, beautiful, sustainable gardens where families can spread their loved ones' ashes. We know, we really, really know that municipal cemeteries today are stretched more thin than ever. Transfer rates of abandoned cemeteries are at an all-time high. Land use is at an all-time premium. And on top of that, our communities have an increasingly aging population. So we designed the MCAP to help communities do more with less. Here's how it works. Next slide. We combine smart design with our patented soil solution to work with Mother Nature, creating healthy, green memorial scattering gardens with unlimited burial capacity, meaning that these gardens are both environmentally and financially sustainable. We also provide wraparound supports for project management, registering and licensing with the Bereavement Authority of Ontario, and staff resources so that our communities are set up to succeed. Next slide, please. Now, not only are our gardens good for the environment, they're helping communities have more spaces more affordably for their residents. If you compare the diagrams that I'm showing here, 50 square feet of cemetery space, which would previously have accommodated 6 casket burials at a cost of $4,000 per family, would generate $24,000 in its lifetime of revenue for the municipality. The same square footage in a standard scattering garden could accommodate 63 ash scatterings at $500 each per family and bring in $32,000 for municipality. Next slide, please. In comparison, our municipal cemetery adoption program, sustainable scattering gardens, at the same price point for community members of $500 a scattering, can accommodate over 500 ashes, generating over $250,000 in revenue for the municipality with a beautiful plantable garden in a mere 5 by 10 foot space. Now, over time, as soil naturally compacts, we top up our specialized soil mixture, meaning that this solution is sustainable in perpetuity. It provides a sustainable resting place solution for the town's foreseeable future. Next slide, please. Total ask to participate in the MCAP is $8,800 plus HST. And if council approves the motion today, our team will work directly with the Bereavement Authority of Ontario on licensing and approvals. We'll also lead project management for design, environmental monitoring, and launch. Now, based on the timeline of approval with the registrar of the province, this leads us to launching a scattering garden with the township as early as fall 2024 to spring 2025. As part of the program, we also connect communities with other municipalities participating to share best practices for ongoing operations. Next slide, please. We know that planning and even thinking about end of life is difficult for almost everyone, and that as council and staff, caring for your living residents of your communities poses quite enough challenges. We created this sustainable solution to care for our deceased with affordable, beautiful, eco-friendly gardens that make this easy for our township partners. Now, we look forward to hearing your questions and discussing how we can work together to leave the earth better.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Amanda. That's a very interesting presentation. I can see that you're very passionate about this project, and I appreciate that you kept the science simple. But, you know, and perhaps one of these questions along here will find out a little more details about the science. Council, do you have any questions? Do I see anybody with any questions? Yes, please, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. I do believe you indicated in your last slide, this is an approved process by the province of Ontario.
That's right. We work with the Bereavement Authority of Ontario so that applications and approvals of licensing are seamless. We take on the heavy lifting. The BAO is in full support of this solution for municipal cemeteries and are looking forward to working with our partners. The one question mark regarding timeline, which is perhaps maybe what you're referring to, is simply regarding what documents are already on file in terms of plans for the space and record keeping.
Okay, good. Thank you. Now, next question. Can you speak about, or have you just considered the rehabilitation of existing, or let's call them pioneer cemeteries, which all the municipalities are looking at acquiring, we'll say? Can they be retrofitted to your process?
They absolutely can. We are looking to develop a second phase of this program that works with nonprofit and community-based cemeteries to, in fact, intervene before a transfer takes place so that we can help them to adopt a sustainable business model so that they can continue to operate and so that transfers are happening at a much lower rate to municipalities. The caveat to this is that pioneer and heritage cemeteries in particular, their record keeping is not, their record keeping is rarely at the level that the BAO is looking for in order to approve breaking ground in some of the space. So that would have to be a lengthier process for approvals.
Okay. Speaking about the actual process, so the family members would be allowed to spread ashes themselves on this growing area, we'll call it, or is this something that will be done by the, say, the funeral homes or whatever? Can you explain the process a bit?
The clerk
Sure.
wants to jump in on this too. But I'll let her go ahead. You just calm down.
Through you, your worship, the various municipalities that we have worked with have had various bylaws for their cemeteries. Some allow families the opportunity to scatter ashes themselves. Some provide a staff member who will do that scattering on the family's behalf. And now I am very happy to turn it
Yes.
over.
Madam Clerk.
No, she answered that perfectly. That's correct. And if this was something we would move forward with, if we did allow families to do that, an operator, someone from the municipality or a funeral director would have to be there just to oversee it.
Makes sense. Absolutely. You can't just let them show up at 10:30 at night and do that sort of thing. Okay.
Well, and I think that's the thing I'm looking at is the responsibility of the funeral director, because we want to protect their responsibility.
Well, they have a business model too.
Right. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
All right. Other questions? Yes, Mr. Beelan.
Thank you, Worship. Do you have any pictures of ones that exist now? Because I get to feel it, like most of our costs looking after a graveyard is cutting grass. Obviously, you don't want lawnmowers going over this area. So is it just like a weed garden, or do you plant pretty flowers there, or what goes on there?
Through you, your honor, to counselor.
Ooh, honor.
Your
I do
worship. My mom's a lawyer. Different municipalities have had different garden designs and landscaping. What is most common is for the area to be mulched. So if you picture sort of a raised garden bed that is mulched and then planted,
Like that.
some that we have worked with, City of Hamilton, for example, have large stones around the outside delineating the space. Whereas some, such as in Niagara Falls, it's more integrated into the existing grass and garden areas.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Beelan. Anybody else with any questions? Oh, yes, Mr. Broderick, go ahead.
Thank you, your worship. Could you expand a little bit on the wall niche?
Yes. Are you asking for a comparison of a wall niche to a?
Yeah.
To a garden?
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Through you, your worship. Wall niches, actually, could we advance slides to the appendix? The final slide. Perfect, thank you. this may be a helpful reference for you. So when compared to casket plots, scattering gardens, or wall niches, there are benefits and there are challenges with each of those interment options. Wall niches are an excellent solution when it comes to land conservation. And in case anyone is wondering about a wall niche, these are the typically granite walls that rise quite high that have cubes where urns are inserted inside them. So wall niches are effective at land use conservation, also water conservation naturally. However, they're extremely expensive to build. They can be $75,000 for one particular unit, making the ROI on individual sales to consumers and to residents a low ROI, yet a high cost to residents. The other factor, of course, is the environmental impact.
Okay. Second question. Designation plaques. Folks come to visit their loved ones. How's that dealt with?
Through you, your worship. Memorial plaques are a very common addition to scattering gardens. And what the majority of municipalities, as well as private cemeteries, do is have a large stone or wall where individual inscriptions can be made by the choice of the family. Some families choose to have a memorial plaque or an inscription, and some do not. It is typically an added expense that the family can opt in or opt out of.
Okay, that leads to another question. Any idea of the cost of that?
Through you, your worship. I do not. However, there are a number of monument providers that the township likely works with who could provide quotes.
Madam Clerk?
Thank you, your worship, through you to Councillor Broderick. So that would be the next phase. If council approves us moving forward, we bring something forward regarding a memorial wall and what that would look like. I think we would propose something to council that fit with the naturalization of that garden. So it's all on what we would like to spend on that. But those types of walls, similar to a columbarium niche, they can be quite expensive. Monuments are, with anything, inflation have gone up in price. So.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I see Councillor Denis. Hello, Councillor.
Hi, just a question. Who gets, it's up to the funeral home to get the remains ready for the scattering? Because there's more to it than just ashes. And I don't want to get into it. There's also like the little registration numbers and everything within that. So that's up to the funeral home to get the ashes ready for this.
Through you, your worship, the process by which families obtain their ashes will remain the same as through any standard cremation process. So upon a loved one's death, a family will often visit or call a funeral home. A body transfer will occur. And if they choose cremation, the funeral home will take care of selecting a crematorium, and then we'll have the ashes returned to the loved one in whatever type of urn that they have chosen. Many families today are in fact not choosing urns because they know they would like the ashes in nature one day, so they choose cardboard boxes. Once the ashes are returned to the family, they're able to do what they wish with them. So thinking ahead to a memorial garden in Township of Clearview, there may indeed be funeral directors dealing directly with the cemetery who would provide the ashes or oversee the scattering on the day of interment. There may actually be many, many families in the community who have ashes at home who approach staff regarding organizing their own private scattering. Does that answer your question?
Sorry.
I understood your question.
Thank
Maybe I
you.
help you out. Oftentimes the crematorium and those that prepare the ashes, there will be, let's call it items in there that are perhaps not 100% human remains. And so what is the preparation so that we don't end up with other than human remains in there, in the scattering?
Through you, your worship. It is indeed the law for crematoriums to include an ID number with the cremated remains. If families choose to add additional items for memorabilia or for significance purposes that are in there, then those would be removed by the funeral director or the staff member overseeing the scattering. That said, part of the program is working directly with staff to develop the standard operating procedures that are the best and most specific for your team's processes.
Is that okay?
That's okay. And just the memory wall, Collingwood has done the sidewalks with the memorial for the different halls launch too. And that could be incorporated somewhere. And they've also done the memorial wall behind the museum for the veterans. So it's just thoughts.
Yeah,
Thank you.
we can look at that in phase 2, as the clerk pointed out. Thank you. Mr. Beelan.
Thank you, worship. I'm still confused how your product is put on this. This is neutralizing the ashes somehow. Do you mix it with the ashes, or after the ashes are spread, you put on this product or whatever? Because you'd have to do it after each spreading, or do you do it once a month? Do you check the soil, or how's that work?
Okay, Amanda, we're getting to the tech. I want to hear this.
My favorite. Through you, your worship. The garden itself is filled with the soil product. This enables ashes to be spread directly into the garden without prior mixing by the funeral director or by a staff member.
But there still would have to be some limit as to how many ashes could be spread on there.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
There still would be some limit as to what volume of ashes could be spread on there.
Over time, the ashes spread in there literally turn into earth. They turn into soil.
But it would consume some of your product up, and you'd have to add new product eventually, right?
That is correct. So in the course of a couple of years, depending on rainfall, precipitation, depending on weather that year, soil is compacted down. So if these were, for example, stones that were outlining the garden, soil level was up to here upon opening. If over the course of 2 years, soil compacted down to here, then it would be topped back up and would increase capacity for
So
insurance.
how often do you come and check the soil or look at it or whatever?
For the MCAP program, we will be doing quarterly monitoring and soil sampling.
Okay.
After the program's duration, we expect an annual check-in.
Okay.
The clerk would like to speak again too. Then I'll get to you, sir.
Just for clarification, I think for myself and for council, when we apply to the BAO through your program, similar to when we expand our cemeteries, we would have to delineate the square footage and how many interments, so scattering interments we're allowing in that square footage. It couldn't go above that because that's what we're being permitted through the BAO. Is that correct?
Through you, your worship, there is a special designation for scattering gardens with the Bereavement Authority of Ontario. I did indeed speak to one of the managers today in case a question like this arose. So while other applications submitted for expansion of cemeteries to the Bereavement Authority of Ontario required numbered plots and spaces per burial, scattering gardens in fact do not, which expedites the process and ensures that there are a infinite number of spaces that can be filled over time.
All right, thank you. Deputy Mayor has a question again.
Thank you, your worship. Can the scatterings take place all year round?
Through you, your worship. That is also something that would likely be determined as a policy or a bylaw of the cemetery itself. And it is also something that is weather dependent. There theoretically could be snow shoveled off of the garden. However, if the ground itself is frozen, then the ashes are not able to be worked in to the specialized soil mixture, and therefore the biochemical transition is not going to occur until the springtime, which scientifically is fine, but from an operational perspective could pose some challenges.
All right, thank you very much. And Mr. Beelan again?
One final question. What about pets? Could they be, just people want to get rid of their ashes as well. Is their ashes as bad as humans? Because humans might have the embalming fluid in them and.
Through you, your worship, pet cremated remains are something we've had discussions about. Their cremated remains are indeed the same makeup as human cremated remains. Policies when it comes to interments of pet ashes versus people ashes are entirely via the BAO's act and regulations at the discretion of the cemetery's bylaws.
At this current time, there is no permissions for any of our cemeteries to have animal remains. That's true. But that is something that council can discuss, given input from the public. If there's nothing further from our members, folks here have picked up a bunch of my points that I'd asked, but I haven't got to one that I'd like to ask, and that is, I would expect that if we enter into this agreement, that you and your team would prepare a report that would give us an established baseline of what the conditions of the soil are before we do anything on site. And then that way we can maintain that from the baseline level. It should be of no surprise to you that Simcoe County has made up an awful lot of soil that has a lot of nitrates in it. It's all over our whole area. And so, we want to make sure that we have a real good understanding about what is in the soil before this whole process starts. So it would be my hope through the clerk that we would get a very good analysis of what this is, not simply just a pH level, but really what this soil is all about. Given that we're going to make this for perpetuity, we would like to know that there's anything that might creep up to us in the future. Okay. That would be one request. Have you ever had that type of concern about what the actual soil conditions are before you start this process? Hello, Lauren.
Hello. This is the least amount of talking I've done in an hour in a very long time. So we actually, when doing the soil sampling with Hamilton, before we actually started with their garden, we realized that it was more beneficial for us to actually come up with a completely custom soil solution for them based off of the makeup of Hamilton being very clay based. So although our product would work, it could work better if we were able to update the ingredients in order to work for Hamilton proper. So if testing happened here that was showing something similar, and we figured with our soil scientists that it would be more beneficial to change out some ingredients to make it work better, we would do the same.
Okay. All right. That's a fair thing. Thank you very much. Those are my questions, but I do have some questions for my staff. So if you don't mind just hanging in there. To the clerk and or any members of staff, I'm looking at our recreation and public works folks. Have you considered how this would change our maintenance program at our cemeteries and given that, we currently provide a level of service which is efficient to cut grass, do some trimming, perhaps take out some tree branches that are causing issues or whatever. But now we're looking at gardening. So definitely it would be a change in program. So I'm wondering through you, the clerk, what have you thought about maintenance for the future of our cemeteries?
Thank you, Your Worship. That's a great question. For lawn maintenance, obviously, like similar to our monuments, we would cut the grass around there. For maintenance of the actual garden, it would depend what plantings we put in there. If it needed to be weeded consistently, or if it was more something that bushes that you saw in their low maintenance type of things, which is why I'm thinking that's probably why it's very popular with municipalities, the low maintenance. And we would consider that as well with council, because the staff time for our contractor or internal staff to do that would be part of the cost as well.
Right. If I would suggest that if we enter this type of agreement and we have a garden facility in our cemeteries, that it needs to be a garden. It cannot simply just be a piece of ground that this is done. It needs to be appropriate and respectful and enriching and enlightening and so on to give a sense of, as you pointed out, those that are living, the opportunity to, celebrate those that have passed. So it should not look simply like a sandbox, so to speak. Right? Okay. So do we agree on that? So I would hope that your supplementary reports on how this works out, if this works out, we have some understanding about what aesthetics will be put into such a facility if we build something like this. Have you ever had this type of question asked about that, about aesthetics? Have you?
Through you, your worship.
Sure.
We have indeed, and we've been asked whether we can actually include recommended planting guidelines as part of the program. So that is something that we are looking at now, particular species for the soil circumstances and particular arrangements. Although there are some cemeteries who do in fact simply have mulched areas.
Unfortunately, I was able to, or called upon to visit one such like that. And so that's why when I read this, I thought, yeah, we don't need a sandbox. We need it to look nice. So thank you very much. Members of council, if there's nothing further or staff? No? Okay. Thank you so much for your presentation. Council will be considering this in the agenda today. So, and thank you, Lauren. You had the opportunity to jump in and say a few words, but Amanda covered it very well. All right. Thank you. Council, we're going to move on in our agenda. There is no public meetings for tonight. We do have approval of our council meeting minutes, however. So be it resolved, the council of the township of Clearview hereby approve the minutes of the May 27th, 2024 council meeting as presented. Can I have a mover and seconder? And that would be Mr. MacArthur, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Thank you. And is there any questions? Seeing none, I'll call the motion. All in favor? And that carries unanimous. Any business arising from the minutes? No? Just to point out, of course, that we talked about cemeteries in our very last meeting, just so you know. We did. We're going to move to item number 9, which is our communications from the mayor. There was no closed report underneath section 9.1. However, I do have a very significant resolution, which I'm hoping that the that the clerk will speak to. I will look for a mover and seconder, but if council's permission, I'm going to read the entire thing, and then I'll look for a mover and seconder. Okay. Whereas the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act 1990, known as MPIPA, has not been comprehensively reviewed in over 30 years. And whereas municipalities consider transparency an important tool for building and maintaining public trust and recognizing the importance of continuously improving, and whereas municipal administrators need legislation that supports effective local program delivery, is responsible to current technology and reflects its original intent of open and accountable government. And whereas MPIPA presents a number of challenges for municipal staff, which can hinder its effectiveness and efficiency when it comes to serving the public. And whereas municipalities should have updated legislation to ensure municipal resources are best allocated, increase trust in public institutions through strengthening accountability, transparency, and responsiveness, and address the needs of the digital era. And whereas the Association of Municipal Managers, Clerks, and Treasurers of Ontario, known as the AMCTO, has comprehensively reviewed MPIPA and put forward recommendations in their submission, looking ahead, a proactive submission to modernize the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. Be it resolved that the Ministry of Public Business and Service Delivery be requested to review MPIPA and consider recommendations as outlined in the AMCTO within their submission, looking ahead, a proactive submission to modernize the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. And further, be it resolved that council direct the staff to send a copy of this resolution to AMCTO's advocacy team and the Ministry of Public and Business Service Delivery. I'll take a mover and seconder on this motion, please. Deneen, thank you. And Broderick, thank you. Madam Clerk, would you like to speak to this? I'm very happy that you put this on the agenda.
Thank you, Your Worship, for you to rest of the council. So AMCTO developed a working group, and you might recognize the chair's name on here. It's our former clerk, Pamela Fettis. Your Worship and some other council members might remember this was a big project for her and something that started here in this council chambers with one of the first recommendations to modernize the act. I think that was done in 2018. So Pan's been working hard with the advocacy group through AMCTO, and they come up with a really good submission to provide to the province and the ministry. They have 20 recommendations in here. There's some top ones at the top of my mind that are really big for Clearview Township. And one of that is the legal system using access to our records through MFIPA at a low rate cost of just a $5 for a request, which often costs the municipality more money because we have to engage our lawyers regarding IPC orders and make sure that we're applying the act correctly. because the IPC does not provide any guidance to municipalities because they are the appeal authority. So we kind of just have to look at the act and IPC orders. So that's why we engage outside legal counsel many times. Third-party request is another one that we would like clarified. That's a big one for Clearview Township. Increase in fees, like I said, currently it's $5 just to submit a request. And then there's search time, which is $7.50 per 15 minutes. So with inflation, we're a little bit behind the times here, especially as it relates to staff time and the amount of time we put into an FOI request. Another one that we would like a little bit more clarification on is council records. We've been told that council records with their constituents are not included and not FOIable through MFIPA. However, if it relates to the business of the municipality, it is, but there can be gray lines there. So we want just further clarification. So out of the 20 recommendations, those are the top ones that we see here at Clearview, but they're all worth mentioning.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there any member of council with a question to the clerk in regards to this recommendation? Nope. Okay. I will just state again that I was my pleasure to join Clerk Fettis when we met with at one of the AMO conferences some time ago about this very issue. And I'm very glad to hear that she's continuing this, this quest to bring this change forward. So thank you to her and thank you to you for bringing it forward, Madam Clerk. Council, if there's nothing further, I'm prepared to call the motion. All those in favor? That carries unanimously. Thank you so much. All right, council, we're going to move on to number 10, which is our county reports of information. We have two releases that are attached to your agenda. One about the county launching the employment survey, a pilot project, and the other one is about recognizing one of our Simcoe County paramedics who was honored with the Ontario Medal of Bravery. We're very pleased and proud of the work that all of our paramedics do. Mr. Deputy Mayor, did you have anything you want to add for county reports today?
Thank you, Your Worship. Our last meeting was May 28th, which was the day after our last meeting. Three things that I had on my list. One was we had to get our flag for the YIMBY, yes, in my backyard, which we had the ceremony in, because it was a rain day on that day. We did get our photo up inside the County Simcoe building, but that same day, a bunch of the mayor, myself, and a bunch of the paramedics, firefighters, we did the same flag raising at our own at the hub. So anyways, that was a good follow through. Also, which was very interesting in our last my last presentation, we'll say, I advised the people about the waste and organic diversion program that was going to become mandatory. However, our mayor did bring a motion forward at our meeting, and for subsequent review of the motion, and the motion was defeated. So at this point in time, it has been turned back to our waste management department to review the process of how do we get more of our organics out of our waste system. But we will continue to follow that. But at this time, the program has been stopped. So the other thing which was announced on June 14th, Bradford is holding the RCF Day. As everybody was aware, we talked about the 100-year anniversary, which we celebrated ourselves with our own Tulip Days, liberation, or the 100 anniversary of the RCIF, my apologies. And so they'll be having a formal facility in Bradford on June 14th. So that's my report.
Well done. Thank you very much for that. Certainly looking forward to all the activity that the county has this summer. They're also going to be very active in promoting summer tourism programs. There's a release that just came out today, Madam Clerk, about tourism and the tourism activities across the county. So it's going to be a very busy time across all of Simcoe County, including our own municipality. What the heck? There's a lot of things happening here too. All right. If there's nothing further, I would like to go to our ward reports at this time. And I would like to start with Councillor Walker. Thank you for joining us for dinner last night, Mr. Walker.
Thank you, Your Worship. That was a great evening, and I'm glad I didn't hit the golf course because it would not be the same after I do a lot of groundbreaking.
Swinging an axe, would you?
Yeah, it's yeah. The worms would have to look out for themselves. I'll tell you that. just June 1st, I was able to and family, we sat down at the Centennial Park for the Trail Tunes. Great day and great music. The kids, grandchildren had a good time in running back and forth and looking at getting butterflies and on their hands and faces. So, and the ringing the bells, they enjoyed that very much. June 3rd, we had the Habitat for Humanity groundbreaking ceremony on Christopher Street. And then, of course, the 3rd was also the golf tournament, which I joined for supper. Just to let people know, June 5th and June 7th, the market. June 5th is Thursday, the Stainer Market music starts. Accessibility Committee will have a booth there, as well as we will be at the Creemore Market as well, to promote accessibility, as well as the inaugural of our Accessibility Fire Department Joint Sticker Campaign. Thank you, Your Worship.
Outstanding. I look forward to the citizens taking advantage of that sticker program. I really hope we can get them out there. Thank you very much, Mr. Walker. Councillor Beelan.
Thank you, Your Worship. May 29th, I attended the Heritage Society AGM and listened to guest speaker Terry Wong. And yesterday I went golfing at the Small Halls Fest golf tournament. It really is a nice course. It was a good time.
Thank you so much. And it was a wonderful day, and it is a beautiful gem of a course right here in our township. Councillor Janine, I know you also joined us at the golf course too.
Yes, despite my reluctance, yes, I did.
You did well.
I
Come
had a
on now.
very enjoyable day, and I really want to say thank you to my gracious fellow golfers, Deputy Mayor and Councillor MacArthur and Tom. I had a really, really great day, despite the fact that I'm not much of a golfer. Also yesterday, I went to my first groundbreaking with Habitat for Humanity, and I was extremely impressed by the people there and what they do. And I hope to go to a lot more from here on in, because that was very impressive what they are doing. But getting back to Nottawa, I just want everyone to know that Monday, June 10th, there will be an on-site meeting at the Mel McKean Memorial Park for information for residents on the proposed development of the McKean Park. The time will be 5:30 p.m. We hope everybody can make it. I do believe there's a rain date, but we will have a few tents and there'll be lots of people on site to ask questions of. Thank you.
Excellent. I look forward to that, and I'll be there with you. So look forward to the residents of Nottawa participating and seeing the great plans we have in mind. Deputy Mayor, would you like to go next?
Thank you, Your Worship. That's going to be a lot of echoing in this presentation today, because I got to commend our council. We have followed each other around this community this last few days, between the Habitat for Humanity dig, the golf course, the trail tunes. The other thing I just want to mention, congratulations to the Garden Club for their plant sale on the weekend, and also to the members of the Brentwood and Creemore. We had 3 simultaneous sales. So congratulations to all those association. My wife, I have a bit of affiliation with the Stainer one. There are a few plants left over. So please see any member of the Garden Club or myself. I'll send you on. There is a few plants left if anybody needs anything. And yes, thank you.
Well done. You bet. Mr. MacArthur.
Good evening, Your Worship. Yeah, broken record again, just attended the Habitat for Humanity and talking with one of the directors there, and she was inquiring about, they call it Adopt a Day program, where maybe we could get together as a council and go over and I don't know what they let us do. I don't imagine they let us swing hammers. They may let us paint or something, but I think that's something we can probably be organized. I mentioned it to my place of employment there at Reinhardt's, and they're going to jump right on it too, because they love to support the community, as we know. Golf, I think we should have a round of applause for Amanda Murray and all her volunteers for yesterday. Well, I hope she's watching, but great.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Super job.
Super job. Great volunteers. Good for them.
And on a final note, you'll be happy to Mr. Broderick asked me about the Ben Gorham Highlanders for the July 1st parade, and I confirmed today that Reinhardt Foods will be more than gladly to support that initiative again this year. Thank you.
Again, a round of applause for Reinhardt's. Good job. Appreciate that very much. That's great news. And thank you for your report. Mr. Broderick, how are you doing over there?
Okay,
Good, good. You got a report for us tonight.
I got a pretty short one, actually.
Yeah.
May 28th, attended the Creemore BIA meeting. Preparations are in place for the upcoming summer solstice celebration on June 21st with entertainment by the Sadies. There'll be line dancing, Creemore Drumming Collective, and a community picnic. And on June the 3rd, attended the Habitat for Humanity groundbreaking at 218 Christopher Street with the mayor, the deputy mayor, and other councilors. It was quite an event.
Was so. Thank you very much, Mr. Broderick. You were missed at the golf tournament yesterday. And I think I mentioned this to you, and then those that were there know that I did mention that you were not there, but that you were doing something that you love, and that is working on machines. So you were fixing bikes and so on. But I know that you're a great golfer too. So what can I say?
To add to that, squirrels get nervous whenever I pick up a golf club.
Okay. All right, let's talk briefly about the golf course, the golf tournament. Well done. The Small Hall Festivals was very, very gracious to receive notification from the Mad River Board of Directors at their private club that they would host us and help us host a golf tournament in support of our small halls. And I am very, very, very proud that we brought out the community. We brought out lots of support. And I know that we're going to get a bit of an update on the actual finances on it. I think they're still putting together a bit of a report on it, but I know that it was a great tournament. And I want to thank again the membership and the board of directors at Mad River Golf Course for hosting us. You know, they only do a couple of tournaments every year, and it was really nice that they chose us. And so what a beautiful property within the township too. It was just a spectacular day, and the weather couldn't have been better, and volunteers were great. But, you know, the day, I want to just review everybody for the day. I mean, you know, this was just yesterday. I showed up here at the office just before 9 o'clock to do a bit of work before we had to go to the Habitat event. And as I walked up the plaza coming into the township office, I was greeted by the Stainer Garden Club, a bunch of volunteers doing some work here in our community, doing up the boxes outside, did a beautiful job. Very nice, friendly folk, having a wonderful time contributing to our community. Did some work here in the office, then went directly over to Habitat Humanity where they were doing the groundbreaking. Again, more wonderful volunteers in our community who are doing great things in our community, helping people and helping our community. I was quite impressed with that. It was a wonderful event, very nice, warm people, and look forward to seeing them as they go through their build. And then drove right up to the Mad River Golf Course, and who I first was greeted by was a bunch of volunteers right there. There was Mary Ann Bowie. You know her, she's such a driving force behind Small Halls and driving force behind the great group of folks that run Sunnydale Community Center. And she just couldn't have been happier that we were hosting this event, you know? And so it was just a really nice volunteer driven day for me yesterday, guys. I was quite impressed with it. I do have a couple other items I want to mention though, and that is that on Sunday, I was invited to represent Clearview way over in Clarksburg. I had to go to Clarksburg on Sunday. This was a kind of a last minute thing, but it was a very nice invitation from the Royal Canadian Legion District E commander who contacted me to remind me that the drumhead ceremony, which we hosted in Creemore last year, was going to be held in Clarksburg, and that he would like nothing more than to have a representative from Clearview there to support it. So I said, you know what? I have time to do that. So I jumped in the car and drove over. Absolutely stellar event. They have an absolutely beautiful cenotaph in Clarksburg, Thornbury area. I was there with Her Worship, Andrea Matrasoff, and MP Terry Dowdle and MPP Brian Saunderson. And so it was quite a crew. There were representatives there from all the services, like the armed services. But I have to tell you, the other services were represented too. The Royal Canadian Coast Guard was there. The RCMP were there in full red serge. Like it was, I was quite surprised. It was quite a little gathering of folks. And it was quite an honor to be there and to participate in the event. And congratulations to the Royal Canadian Legion once again hosting a very good event, recognizing our fallen as well as the future of the legions in our area. So I thought it was a really nice event. The other thing I do want to mention, and a thank you to the Deputy Mayor for pointing it out to me, that the Culture and Sports Hall of Fame is coming up, an induction ceremony, which is on the 19th, I believe it is. Is that correct? 19th. It's happening here at the Stainer Community Center. And so I believe everyone has been notified. And so there's a little bit of ticket sales going on to get people to come to the event. And so Terry, I think information available on discoverclearview.ca. Is that right? Thank you so much. Okay, so we're looking forward to being there. I hope all members of council have an opportunity to attend and celebrate the culture and sports that contributes to the fabric of our community. So we got a lot of things to celebrate right now. You know, when you think about it, the Small Hall Festival, 10 years old, Music Market and Parket, 10 years old here on Thursday. We've got, you know, the Spoons are playing here in our yard, right here in our backyard, basically. They're going to be in the gazebo, like no fancy stage or whatever. This is like, you know, Ontario's premier high school band is going to be playing in our gazebo. Pretty cool, I think. Yeah. Thursday nights have always been difficult for us in Stainer, haven't it? So, but we'll see. We're going to put in a special request. Madam Clerk, if you could write that up, that'd be great. Nevertheless, that's my report at this time. And I look forward to a terrific week here ahead. We've got one thing that's coming up on Saturday is the Great Northern Exhibition volunteers. Speaking of volunteers, steak dinner on Thursday night. I know that they're selling tickets for that right now with a dance happening afterwards. It's sort of a tradition now that the steak dinner is held at this time of year with the G&E volunteers. So looking forward to that on Saturday. Okie dokie, that's all I have at this time. So members of council, we're going to move on in our agenda. And we're going to move straight over to, where are we at? Legislative Services. We've got our Awake Canada presentation. This is a report that was put together by our deputy clerk, and our clerk was quite passionate about it as well. Council, I have a motion here in front of us, so I'm going to read it and then I'll look for a mover and seconder. We can have any further debate on this issue. Recommendation be it resolved that Council of the Township of Clearview hereby receive report LS 022-2024, Awake Canada Municipal Cemetery Adoption Program, MCAP, dated June the 4th, 2024. And item 1, that Council authorize staff to apply for the Municipal Cemetery Adoption Program through Awake Canada at a cost of $8,800 plus HST to be funded from the Stainer Union Cemetery operating account. I'll look for a mover and seconder on this motion. Beelan, thank you. And Deneen, thank you. Council, do you have any questions or anything further you'd like to discuss in this? Yes, Mr. MacArthur.
Yeah, just one. What is the length of the term of this contract for the $8,800? Is it a one-time fee, yearly fee?
Madam Clerk? Or, I'm sorry, I looked to her. Deputy Clerk. Hi, Krista.
Hi there, how are you tonight?
Good, good.
Good. I'm sorry, I missed the question. Was it how long would the agreement be?
Yeah, for the $8,800, is this a yearly fee, a one-time fee?
I would like to defer that to Amanda or Lauren if you'd be able to answer that.
Would you like to come back up to the microphone, Amanda?
Hello again, everyone. Through you, your worship, this is a one-time fee for a 1-year program duration. Any subsequent soil top-ups determined at any point in future based on precipitation and or need by the community would be a separate agreement.
All right. Other questions? Are you comfortable? Okay, that's good. We'll go to the deputy mayor and then I see others. Okay.
Thank you, your worship. How many cemeteries would we be looking at placing this in? Is this $8,800 per location? It sounds like. I mean, the Stainer Union is our main cemetery, but is there other ones we would want to consider this in?
Take that to Krista. Go ahead, deputy.
Thank you. Through you, your worship. This would just be for the Stainer Union Cemetery at this time. If council was looking to further expand to the other cemeteries, we could contact Awake Canada and look into that in the future.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Councillor Janine, yes, you have a question?
I just wanted to make a comment that it would make a nice, affordable option for families.
No doubt.
That's my comment there.
All right, thank you very much. All right, and did you have something you want to say? Please go right ahead there, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. Just to add on to the deputy clerk's comment regarding Stainer Union, that site was chosen because there is a portion of the land there that is unusable for in-ground interments for traditional casket burials because of the water table. So that's why we thought that would be a good site to start with, because we can't use that site for anything else in that location. And that's on the very north end of the cemetery there.
All right, is that good? All right. I would argue one point you made, though, that it's not usable for burials, but we could build future niches on those properties. Yes, we could. All right. Is there anything else then for the deputy or the clerk? Seeing none? Okay, well, good luck with this, council. We've got a report. We've got a mover and seconder. I am prepared to call the motion. All those in favor? That carries unanimous. Thank you very much. Good luck with the program. We look forward to an update. Let's see here. Building and Planning Department, the Committee of Adjustment report for March 11th, March, April and May, 2024. Recommendation be it resolved, Council of the Township of Clearview hereby receive report PB 015-2024 Committee of Adjustment for March, April, May 2024. And it is dated June the 4th, 2024 for information. Mover and seconder, Mr. MacArthur, thank you. Mr. Broderick, thank you. Any questions on the Committee of Adjustment? Seeing none, I'll call the motion. All in favor? Thank you. That carries unanimous. Over to the East Stainer Sewage Pumping Station tender results. Okay, recommendation. Be it resolved, Council of the Township of Clearview hereby receive report PW 015. Well, that was very convenient. I just noticed it was PB 015, and then it's PW 015. They're both very good, consistent work there. Thank you. Yeah. Oh, competition, racing. Are you okay, Dan? We got it. Be it resolved, the Council of the Township of Clearview hereby receive report PW 015-2024, the East Stainer Sewage Pumping Station tender result, and it's dated June the 4th, 2024. Item 1, Council award the tender submitted by W.S. Morgan Construction Limited in the amount of $2,876,980, including HST, for the East Stainer Sewage Pumping Station. Excellent. Is there a mover and seconder on this motion? Mr. Deputy Mayor and Mr. Broderick. Thank you very much. Dan, would you like to comment to this? It's a pretty significant investment.
Thank you, Your Worship. I take no credit in both of these reports that are on the
Okay.
agenda today, and Mr. Baz Dukanish is on Zoom if there are any questions.
All right, Mr. Dokanish, nice to have you join us. I wasn't aware that you were on the meeting. I always mean to check those things out the first of the meeting, and I forgot to. Welcome, Baz. Have you got anything you'd like to add to your report?
Good evening. No, I can give just a little bit of a background. Just that this report is basically part of the works that's ongoing for the Sunnydale and Phillips servicing improvement project. Typically, this is really just a complement with the two-stage approach process that is ongoing right now with the wet well that the developer, which is Manortown, is conducting at this time. As you may be aware that there was a report that was presented to council for the pre-scope pre-servicing agreement that was done about a couple months ago. Excuse me, a couple of months ago for the wet well works. So this is really just the sewage pump station that will basically house in the electrical components and the mechanical components, which is anticipated to start in 2025. If we're able to proceed sooner, we will do so tail end of 2024 of this year. But I'm here for any further questions or concerns. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Dokanish. And members of council, do you have any questions to Baz or to Dan on this? All right. Seeing none, thank you very much, Baz, for your report. Council, you've got a mover and seconder on this motion. I am prepared to call the motion. All those in favor? That carries unanimous. Thank you. All right. Thanks, Baz. Let's see. Moving on. Riverside Drive tender result. This is something, honestly, I've been waiting to see for a while. Glad to see it's finally here. Just an update. This tender amount was amended on the council agenda. And so it's corrected the version we have in front of us is correct. This is a recommendation, be it resolved that Council of the Township of Clearview hereby receive report PW 016-2024 Riverside Drive tender result dated June 4, 2024. And item 1, that council award the tender submitted by 1579137 Ontario Limited, owner operator of SMRS Construction, in the amount of $1,867,869.04, including HST, for the Riverside Drive Road reconstruction as described in tender and summarized in this report. Can I have a mover and seconder? Mr. MacArthur, thank you. And I'll look down this side, Mr. Walker. Thank you. I wasn't going to let that go by without you making sure that you were in on this. Thank you so much, sir. Dan, is this yours or is this Baz as well? Baz?
Yes, your worship. This is mine as well.
Yes,
no,
thank
the
you. I know,
report-
I'm aware of it, but I always like to go to the senior manager first. So
Yes,
there you
yes.
go. Go
My
ahead.
apologies. Yes, thank you, worship. No, this report is pretty straightforward, so I'm here just for any questions or concerns.
Well, I tell you what, the report's straightforward, but the work isn't, because it's a pretty complicated piece of work and I'm really glad we're going to get it done. Save that Riverside. Yes, go ahead, Madam Denis.
Thank you.
I'm getting sleepy over
Thank
here.
you, Your
Sorry.
Through you to Baz, please. I'm just wondering, have we worked with this contractor before? We're familiar with them and the work they do?
So, through your worship, sorry. So SMRS, I'm familiar with the contractor. Haven't worked with them directly. However, they've done some works in the Wasaga Beach area, and also our consultants RJ Burnside has done numerous amount of jobs with them as well.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Mr. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. Just to Councillor Deneen, I've worked with SMRS as a customer for 20 years. They're a good contractor. I've my dealings with them, so that's from a business point of view. Quick question, we can refer this either to Mr. Pro or to Mr. DeCanish. Did we talk anything with the county of Simcoe as that road, and I brought it up earlier, that this road has been designated as a road for bikes and stuff. Any comment to that, Dan, or should we be not dealing with that right now?
I'm going to go to Dan, please. Yep.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship, through to you, Deputy Mayor. When this was brought up, we realized that the county was designating concession 6 and Riverside Drive as a potential bicycle route. We went back to our engineers to see what they could do. But there are several sections of that road that are quite narrow as far as adding wider asphalt area. We'll try our best. You know, at the price that come in, you know, squeeze another 6 inches of asphalt or something like that probably wouldn't be too big a deal, but there are a couple of sections in there where it's quite narrow. But we'll try everything we can to make it as wide as possible.
Thank you.
And sorry, a lot of those narrow sections now will have guardrail, proper steel beam guardrail, so it's even tighter.
I appreciate those comments. It's one of those things that the county has identified. It doesn't mean they're contributing or influencing us. So this is a good decision for our local members at this time. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And Mr. MacArthur?
Yeah, I'm not sure who wants to answer. It's just, are we confident we've done enough analysis of the famous speed bump that, or can we expect maybe some extras once they get shovels in the ground?
Dan, you can take that.
Yeah, I think I can handle that. Yeah, so there was quite an extensive amount of geotechnical investigations, so boreholes, and to find out what types of soils there are in and around not only just that area, but all along that whole stretch. So you know, the design's been adjusted accordingly. A lot of the issues was more of drainage. So getting that drainage from the east to the west under that road, through that road. I know before Steve Sage retired, he told me that they did that road about 20 years ago and put a bunch of tile drainage under there. And so it's lasted 20-ish years, or 15 years, I guess, before it really started going haywire. So but that's been beefed up just based on that and the soils conditions there.
I'd be very interested to see how many old tree stumps or logs come up when they start doing that job. Thank you.
Excellent. Any other members of council? All right. Mr. Perot, on this particular contract and on this piece of work, given that it's clearly a priority of the township to take a look at, environmental impacts of our climate change and heavy rains that we've had have changed, are we taking that into the design of this road on how we would protect that future roadbed from future erosions? Or have we considered how we're dealing with the drainage features that would be part of that repair and that change of that? Can you just outline for me and for council? As we've been talking, we have had a lot of work on that site. And I'm just wondering what steps we're going to be taking to really take a good look at this and see if we can mitigate any future damage.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. And as far as climate change specifically, I'm not sure that that's really been looked at, but
I'm considering the amount of rain that we get. Like
Yeah.
when we get rain now, we get like heavy rain as compared to just a light drizzle, right? So
yeah, so the real bad section of that road will have some bank stabilization done to it. So more engineered bank stabilization, I'll call it, than just a few trees here and there that the roots kind of hold it in. So similar to the construction on the 10th concession, if you've been through there, there's the like a grid type system where it's earth-based materials are placed in a grid retaining walls type structure. So it's a bit more engineered in that
Thank
way.
you.
In that way, so that it'll hold that. We've also integrated on the 10th concession some spillways. So when it does rain in those low sections, that the water will run off into a designated area or a pathway that's more structural, more secure that way. So
okay. Well, I look forward to this project, that's for sure. We have looked at it for a long time and really anticipated it coming. So
yeah.
Thank you very much for getting this forward, and thank you to Baz for getting this reported.
And I just for council's information, I don't know how many people have been there recently, but just the 10th concession is now officially finished.
Outstanding.
Top course of asphalt went on mid last week, so line painting should happen sometime in the next little while. So that was a long project as well.
That was a long project. Robert, was that about 2004 when we first heard about that? Yeah, no kidding. Oh my gosh. All right. Council, yeah, well, thank you. You got to get this one fixed. Yes, go ahead, Mr. McCartney.
Yeah, Dan, I traveled that road on Sunday. I thought it looked like it was finished, and I appreciate your comments on the spillways and the gabion ditches and whatnot. It looks pretty bulletproof, I would say, for the foreseeable future.
All right. Yes, Mr. Van Stabbert.
Thank you. Dan, I just bring it out a bit. We did get a comment, or I got a comment about the potential for trucks using those roads. And I guess the signages are now up for 60 kilometers. So I hope if we have problems or concerns, it'll become more of a policing issue now than anything else to control the speeds on that entire length of the 10th line. So
it is.
Yeah, through your worship, council passed that resolution or bylaw a few years ago now, and it was pretty immediate. It's 60 kilometers an hour from 124 right to Collingwood, Poplar Side Road. So it's posted at 60. And every little while I hear about the police enforcing it, but probably doesn't get enforced as much as it needs to, just like many of our roads.
do we ever send a notice to the quarries to say, advise the drivers that these are 60-kilometer roads? Do they ever do anything like that?
Dan?
Through your worship, I haven't done that in my time here. they're posted, it's posted very well, just as Quarry Hill is posted very well, so.
All right. Mr.
Yeah, I know
Clerk.
going back to, I worked out of that pit a couple of times and there was usually a notification through the scale house for, you know, if there was complaints or avoid, or this is a designated route when a certain job would pop up, so. And another thing I thought of there, Dan, we talked a bit brief yesterday is the low amount of the tender compared to the budgeted amount. So can you make a comment on that?
Certainly can, through your worship. And I think we realized it last year. I was quite surprised. I think maybe the COVID hangover is over as far as construction or coming, or easing, maybe not over, but easing. The last two years, the second phase of the 10th concession and this Riverside Drive project, you know, we're certainly seeing the price have stabilized, I'll say, into maybe a bit more normal than they were right after COVID. So kind of knock on wood, that's a trend that's going to move forward in our future projects. But yeah, the last 2 years have been surprisingly lower than what the estimate had been.
All right. Members of council, you're all finished with your questions? That's good. We've got a report in front of us with a mover and seconder. I am prepared to call the motion. All those in favor? That carries unanimous. Well done. Okay, the audited financial statements, that's right, Finance Department. We had a great report there from Jay Anstey from Baker Tilly. And here we have the recommendation, be it resolved that Council of the Township of Clearview hereby receive report FIN 010-2024. This is the 2022 audited financial statements dated June the 4th, 2024. And item 1, that council approve the township 2022 audited financial statements prepared by Baker Tilly, South Georgian Bay LLP as presented. Can I have a mover and seconder? Deneen, thank you. Seconder Walker, thank you. Madam Clerk, anything you want to add? Sorry, Madam Treasurer. I'm looking right at you, calling you clerk.
Thank you, Worship. I did think that was a little odd, but no, I think Jay summed it up pretty nicely. So.
Okay, thank you very much. Council, any questions? Nothing further? I'm prepared to call the motion. All in favor? That carries unanimous. Well done. All right, Parks, Recreation and Culture. And we have a report regarding the Nottawa Hall. Recommendation, be it resolved that Council of the Township of Clearview hereby receive report PCR 010-2024, the Nottawa Hall vestibule dated June the 4th, 2024. Item 1, the council approve repairing the front vestibule and roof at the Nottawa Hall in the amount of $27,494 plus HST. And item 2, that costs for these repairs be funded from the tax stabilization reserve. Okay, I'll take a mover and seconder on the floor here. Deneen, thank you. Is there a seconder? Deputy Mayor, thank you very much. Okay, would you like to speak to your report, Terry? Mr. Vachon, nice to have you here.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Yes, perhaps just to add some quick, a bit more context to my report. We would consider this project quite urgent. We were notified by the hall board chair from Nottawa, Mr. White, with respect to the damage that was potentially done to the vestibule. And so we as a department acted and reacted quite quickly. We reached out to our 2 local suppliers that we know that would be readily available to us to do an investigation and find out the state of these damages that's been done. So we again react quite urgently. As you know, Your Worship, it's the hall board's responsibilities to bring projects forward to council, either capital or operational. And so, but with this report here, I felt that the urgency matter, I had to take this under my direction to get this done as quickly as possible. We did not have a meeting with the hall board with respect to the details of this. I just, again, didn't have the time to do it. We needed to bring this to council immediately to get it repaired. We reached out to, again, like I said, 2 local suppliers. We do want to seek out other quotations But again, when I wrote this report, I had to get some numbers in quickly for council to consider. So, again, we have to get this done. We know that the Ottawa Hall has been quite busy lately, and they're lining up for a very busy summer. And so we need to get these repairs done immediately. Unfortunately, if you would walk into the hall today, you can tell that the damage is considerable. There's a little bit of a foul smell to the facility. So, like I said, we have to get this done immediately. So with that, I'm available for any questions that you or council may have.
All right, members of council, do you have any questions to Terry Vachon? Yes, I'll ask a question to start off. Terry,
Sure.
I served on the hall board for a long time, as a counselor, and I know Councillor Janine's doing a great job as our new council representative on there as well. Terry, the very first item in your background report said that the department was notified in 2024. I'm sorry to report to you, but they've been notified much before that. There's minutes of many meetings. There's even a report that came from Burnside about this issue. When they did the very first Burnside report that looked at our AODA issues, there's one sentence in it that stated that they also noted that there was damage to the floor, but it wasn't part of the AODA inspection. And so this is, just to be clear, this has been something that all of the hall boards, subsequent boards, have been dealing with, trying to figure out how we're going to get this repaired. And to the credit of the chairperson, to reach out, to contact you directly to advise that there's a very serious problem here that's now been mitigating over many, many years. I'm glad that he finally did that. But there are certainly some notifications where you'll be able to find information about this problem festering for a while. So nevertheless, I just want you to consider that. You don't need to comment on that, but I know that Councillor Janine has things she'd like to say too. Go ahead, Councillor Janine.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, just a few things. We did notify Terry of the problem back last summer, but at that time, the floor we felt was just wet, and we thought we had that remedied by drainage put into the front flower bed at floor level, and it didn't fix the problem. So we thought we had it fixed, and that was when we noticed that there was significantly more water damage. And as the mayor mentioned, the vestibule was never included in the AODA renovations, so it's not affecting the renovations. It was always going to be there, regardless of what the AODA renovations happened to the building. So it is something that needs to be addressed. And I also wanted to ask Terry to please take into consideration no more flat roof. Maybe they can put an angle on that roof. It would be nice.
There's a
It
thought.
just takes a couple of boards and and some shingles to make an angle on that roof, and rather than a flat roof. That's just my comments on that. Thank you.
Terry, your comments on flat roofs.
Yeah, Your Worship. So at this time, our recommendation is to replace like for like what's there now. The proposal that we've received from DJ Pete's is to replace what's there now. It wasn't to provide a new roof. If that's what council would like to do, then we would have to go back, and it may require a little bit of engineering, and it would take some time to do. So if that's what council chooses to do rather than replacing what's there now, we're definitely open to that. Again, our recommendations is to act on this as quickly as possible, considering the amount of the crack that's present in the existing vestibule roof. But again, if it's required engineering, and then we would have to review that, and it may take some time. So again, we're open to council's direction, but our recommendation at this time is just to replace what's there now. And perhaps in the future, as part of the AODA renovations or other renovations, perhaps we can look at a slanted roof. I agree with Councillor Deneen. Slanted roofs are much better than a flat roof. But I think in the essence of time, we may be a little bit limited in what we could do.
Give her a supplemental. She's got her card up again.
Sure.
Go ahead, please.
Sorry about that. They have temporarily fixed that problem according to the report though, right? They fixed the seam?
Am I on? Yeah. Yes, if temporary sealed it, but it can let go at any point in
Yeah,
time.
of
Yeah,
of course it can.
yeah.
But, yeah.
But, so sorry, Your Worship, Councillor Deneen is correct. We do have a little bit more time, but our recommendation is to do it first because we want to, it's the interior of the vestibule that's really damaged. It's what's providing a foul smell. And we don't want to redo the inside without doing the roof first.
Oh, yeah.
I've asked both suppliers and they said, no, do the roof first and then do the interior. So one goes with the other. So, you know, the roof has been temporarily sealed, but we want to get both repaired as soon as possible.
And just one more thing, Terry, can we look at like a piece of plywood over the opening there and have a temporary door, not like where the construction's going to take place, not for access to the building, but egress if we needed a second way out, if there was a fire of some sort? Can there be a temporary door put in where the opening is, where you go up the stairs? Has that been any consideration done in that regard while the hall's being rented? Obviously, you have to go upstairs, access the hall by stairs. So it doesn't matter if you're going up at the front entry or at the side entry. We have a key for the side entry to continue our rentals. But I would hope that they would put a piece of plywood over the entryway so we can continue to rent as normal as possible.
Through Your Worship, no, we have not explored adding any other means of egress. Adding that type of construction again would require engineering. There's a lot of egress regulations with respect to the building code that has to be met. So we can't, we haven't got any quotes or any extensions. We're just trying to replace what's there now. We didn't explore any other options into, you know, improving the vestibule. It was just to fix what's there right now. Again, we could look into that further and provide more options, but in the essence of time that we had, you know, we just want to replace what's there now.
Okay, thank you.
I'll just jump in before the deputy mayor. Terry, I think the point there that she's trying to make, and that is that we want to mitigate the impact to the renters. To be honest, the Ottawa Hall has never been busier. Like, holy cow, it's rented all the time. And so this is this work, while it definitely needs to be done, will definitely impact the rentals and the programming that's being offered to the community. So somewhere or another, we need to sort of accommodate having rentals. So there is a side door entrance. It's a little more awkward and perhaps a little challenging for some of the renters who use the facility right now. So I'm just asking that we, once we initiate this project, that full communications be offered to the board, through the board chair, and as well as the booking agent, to make sure that we can communicate effectively with all the renters. Make sense to you, Terry?
Absolutely, yes. And we'll definitely be working with the hall board to make sure we coordinate this all together as quickly and as effectively as we possibly can.
Thank you so much. You had a question, Deputy Mayor?
I just wish to comment on it, Your Worship. I just want to follow up on Councillor Deneen's comment about the flat roof. You've got a competent contractor there with Bill Limeguard. He's got a lot of talents, and I would prefer personally that we talk to him if we're going to give him the contract. Let's see what it would cost to rip it off and put a flat roof, or not, get rid of the flat roof, put a peaked roof on quickly. It may make his job more efficient. Before we go too far with this whole process, I would prefer to, knowing that it's been temporarily kept at a bay, I'd really like to see what Bill would have to say as far as putting a different roof on that and making it a permanent solution.
Excuse me, I firmly believe that it would be easier than tearing off a flat roof, just to tear it off completely and it's just stick work. Stick work and shingles.
Okay, so for council, just to recall, the motion will be that there's two parts to this, right? There's the contractor to do GJP roofing and the contract to do the work with Mr. Limeguard as proposed through the manager. So if you're looking at changing this, then we need, frankly, a full amendment or defer. Yeah.
We refer that to the clerk, which would be
What do you think? What's your recommendation, Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Worship. Both Both could work. If you're wanting to get actual prices and for Terry to investigate if there needs to be any engineering done or anything through building code, I would suggest referring it back to staff. It could be brought back forward on the June 24th meeting, just to provide a full picture to council if a slope roof is what you're looking for. So we would make a referral motion back to staff.
Go ahead.
I'd like to refer it back to staff, please.
Okay, referral back to staff. Is there a seconder on the motion? Okay, Mr. MacArthur's going to second that. All right, any referral time period? Usually with referrals, we kind of ask for a time period.
I'm sorry, the clerk mentioned to bring it back to the 24th meeting.
Okay,
Thank you.
think that'll provide you enough time between now and then?
Absolutely.
Okay, just want to be clear. That's great. Council, there's a motion to defer this item to the 24th meeting with further information from staff. Any other comments? I'll call the motion. All in favor? And that carries unanimous. Thank you so much. All right. Thank you, Terry, for that report, and good luck on the subsequent work that's coming from it. Okay. Now we have an item that we need to talk about here. This is the Creemore portable washroom approval. Recommendation be it resolved that Council of the Township of Clearview hereby receive report PCR 011-2024. Creemore portable washroom approval dated June 4, 2024. Item 1, the council approved the quotation submitted by NIU Washroom in the amount of $79,900 plus HST, sole sourcing the purchase of a portable public mobile accessible washroom for the Creemore area. And item 2, that the purchase amount for the portable accessible washroom and the operational expenses for 2024, which are approximately $11,200, be funded from the accessibility reserve. Can I get a mover and seconder on the motion, please? Mr. Beelan, thank you so much. Seconded by Mr. Broderick. Thank you, Mr. Broderick. All right, Terry, this is a very good report, and it has a lot of facets to it, given that this is an item that has been discussed by many of our community groups, many of our community hall volunteers over the years, most recently by our Creemore Village Green Operating Board, and by our counselor, Mr. Beelan, who is a member of that board. So Terry, if you'd like to outline some of the comments in your report, then we'll look for questions from the council. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Before I provide some comments, I think through you to the clerk, I think we want to do a friendly amendment to the recommendation number 2 with respect to the name of the reserve. So I'll let the clerk clarify that.
Thank you. I had my microphone on the whole time.
Yeah, I know.
You didn't mute me.
No, I saw it right there. Just a second. There, it's muted. See, it's muted.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to the rest of council, our treasurer kindly reminded me that when she said accessibility reserve, she didn't mean the one that was written down. She meant the AODA accessibility reserve, so the capital reserve. So that would be the friendly amendment that we would be changing.
What that would say? What's the actual wording?
Thank you, Your Worship. The actual reserve is the AODA Hall Renovation Reserve.
Okay. Mover and seconder will consider that a friendly. Fair enough. Thank you. Okay. Terry, go right ahead.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Again, a somewhat time-sensitive project. As we know, summer is here in full swing. And as we also know, the Village Green operates the spray pad, is what we call it, down in Village Green. So the public will be using those facilities in the very near future. So we would like to try to rectify this problem that we have specifically down at the Village Green station in the green area. And so this is also, we did some research with respect to the 2 washrooms that we've ordered back in April. If you recall, those were part of our budget for this year, and they should be here next week for both the Nottawa and Stainer Parks. And so when we reached out to the supplier, we requested how much time it would take to manufacture one of these washrooms, and they notified us that it normally takes about 8 to 12 weeks, like the washrooms that we ordered. And so, but they did notify us that they actually had one being fabricated at that time, and it was earmarked for a supplier, but they had canceled it. And so they said that it was going to be completed in approximately 4 weeks, which was about 2 to 3 weeks ago. And so that it's a version of a washroom that's bigger than what we had ordered. If you recall, the two that we have ordered, there's a unisex washroom with an AODA washroom. This style here that we're recommending this evening has both a male and female washroom, as well as an accessibility washroom attached to it. So in essence, it has 3 washrooms versus 2. So it's like I said, it's readily available to us, and we would consider this as a temporary solution, Your Worship, with respect to the washroom / change room problems we have there in Creemore. I think the department will be looking at working with the Station on the Green board and trying to find perhaps a permanent solution, and perhaps working with the Village Green, the Creemore Community Foundation, to see what we can come up with as a permanent solution. But this is more of a temporary solution. And as we know, these trailers can be moved anywhere. So if, say, by 2026, we've constructed some sort of permanent solution, we can easily move this trailer to anywhere council so chooses throughout the township. So it's not money wasted. It's an asset that the township would own, and that we would be able to relocate wherever we so choose. So I think it kind of makes sense. I think it really satisfies the problems and the concerns in Creemore, as well as not spending taxpayers' money foolishly and having an asset in our organization. So again, Your Worship, I'm available for any questions or that council may have.
Thank you very much, Terry, and thank you for the report and outlining the cooperation you're getting from the supplier who's already helping us with 2. So thank you for that sort of information and research that you put into it. Mr. Walker, did I see you put your card up? Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. First of all, I'm glad to see, Terry, that you talked about a permanent solution down the road and maybe a partnership with the other agencies there to deal with this situation. A couple of questions, just for public knowledge. Timeline in the receiving of our 2 order that we have already ordered. And then the follow-up, you said this would maybe be a week or whatever behind. So if you just give us a timeline on that, that's question number 1. And I'll let you go with that one first.
Through Your Worship, the Councillor Walker. Yes, so the supplier had notified us that the 2 original washrooms would be received approximately June the 15th. So that's hopefully sometime next week. Although, if council approves this evening, I'll be reaching out to the supplier tomorrow. Maybe there's a way of shipping all 3 at the same time and perhaps saving on some shipment fees. And so, it may prolong all 3 washrooms arriving at the same time. But if that cannot be done, the timelines that we're expecting is to receive the 2 that we ordered next week and receiving this 3rd washroom within the next 2 weeks following.
Mr. Walker?
Second question is, once they're received, do we have staff or contractors that are available to step forward within a couple of days or so after delivery, so that these can be utilized as quickly as possible instead of sitting for a period of time not being utilized? Because we've ordered them, we want a purpose for them, we need them activated. So have we got standby personnel ready to jump in and look after these once they're here?
Good point.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Yes, the goal is to activate these washrooms upon arrival. There's going to be a bit of a training process with respect to all the new technology that's involved in these washrooms. As you may recall, it's all electric locks and door handles and TV camera monitoring services. So there's going to be a bit of a training curve, but from an operational perspective, the goal is to get these going as soon as possible. Again, this is the first time that we're going to be receiving these type of washrooms. And so again, it's going to be a small little learning curve, but we feel confident that the way these are such a mobile unit, that we should be able to get these things going as soon as possible, within days, Your worship.
Okay. Mr. Walker, thank you very much. Good questions. Other members of council with questions to this? I see the deputy mayor. Go ahead, deputy mayor.
Thank you, Terry. Questioning the operating expenses, will this unit be able to be hooked up to the sewage system of Creemore? I see we've got a $300 a week allocation for waste gray water removal, but is it something that could be hooked to, and for other places as well? Can we be looking at hooking them up to a sewage system?
Yes, thank you, Your worship. Thank you, Deputy Van Severen, again, through you, Your worship. Yes, it has the ability to be hooked up to the sewers. The recommendations this evening is to be a 100% mobile at this time, hooking up to municipal water, but utilizing the holding tanks for the sewer ability. For Creemore specific, we haven't really nailed down specifically the exact location of where this trailer is going to go. We have a few ideas in mind, working with Councillor Beeling, being the rep on the Station on the Green board, but we won't know until we specifically choose the exact location where it's going to sit. And we're going to work with our water and sewer department to see what options we have available to us. It's going to be tight from a sewer perspective. We know there's lots of water on the site and easy access to water, but sewer might be challenging, but maybe there's a few locations that might be able to. But again, Your worship, with this report, right now, the plan is to be mobile, to have the wastes sucked out of the holding tanks. And if we can accommodate accessing the sewers, we will, but we haven't explored that option as of yet.
I just trying to perceive it like a camper where you pull up, you have your hose, you just pull it, you got a dump station, whatever you want to call it, but we could do it on a temporary or say a semi-permanent state that way.
Yeah.
Anyways, good. You're considering it anyway, so
yeah,
we'll let the engineer work on that one otherwise.
Sure. Your worship, sorry, a bit further just to add, the couple locations that we've identified, one would be on the northwest section of the parking lot, kind of like right onto the grassy area there. There's a little bit of there's two accessible parking spots there. We may have to build another accessible parking spot to the east and use up one of those spots to put that trailer there. The goal is to get the trailer visible and so that the public sees it, because as we know at the moment, the folks are using the Station on the Green washroom as a change room. They're getting full of water, getting slippery, getting dirty quite quickly. So we have to make sure that the trailer is very visible to the public so they can access it right away. And they don't have to find it, look for it, because they'll just go to the Station on the Green washroom, which negates this whole problem that we have. So and another location that's been chosen is kind of to the south, a bit of a green area, kind of next to the driveway that goes to the Bank Cafe. There's a little bit of a spot there, perhaps that could be used. Again, we won't really know until we see this, get it on site, measure it, and be able to find the proper location.
All right. Anything else from members? Okay, I'm very impressed actually with the report, some of the details about the unit that's being provided. Details such as it's, it has holding tank capability. It has monitoring of the Blackwater tank levels, so you can get a notification if it's too full. You can set it up so that it'll shut off the water. If there's a water leakage issue, it can automatically shut off the water. It'll tap it out. So it's a pretty interesting piece of equipment. And I also think it's very important to note that it's sort of reflecting our modern society and how washrooms do get used for sure, but washrooms also get abused, by some members of community. And so we want to make sure that it's a very durable piece of equipment that we're purchasing. It certainly looks like it is. I know it's in the report, Terry, but maybe just for the fact that you could comment on it, it does have a bit of warranty to it as well, if I'm not mistaken. It's not just we're buying it and getting it, where the company NIU does provide some pretty good serviceability to these equipment. They're going to, you mentioned they're going to do some training as far as the electronics in it, but I'm sure that we're going to have good service from this company.
Yes, just to add, Your worship, yeah, the warranty is 25 years on the structure and 10 years on the accessories to the unit.
Yeah. The other aspect too, some of the exterior pictures, it made me think that this community has had some pretty good luck in doing vehicle wraps. This is something that could be wrapped. It doesn't have to be just a big white box sitting in the middle of the community. You could wrap it with a brick motif of some type if you wanted. Like the point is, I think it could be wrapped and it could look quite, could fit in well. That's the idea. Nevertheless, thank you very much for the report. Thank you, council, for your questions. If there's nothing further, I'm prepared to call the motion. All those in favor? And that's a unanimous decision. Thank you so much. All right. Moving on. A couple more things here on the agenda. We have a bylaw here in regards to our appointment bylaw. Yes, do you have a question?
I do have a conflict of interest on.
Oh,
I previously declared a conflict of interest, so I will not be voting.
thank you
on
for
this
bringing that up.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you for that. I recall you mentioning that last meeting. Thank you. All right. So you'll step back from the chair. That's great. Resolution to be it resolved, bylaw number 2441, being a bylaw to amend Schedule A of bylaw 22-101, appointing members to the Township of Clearview committees and boards, be presented or read a first, second, and third time and finally passed on the 4th day of June, 2024. Can I have a mover and seconder on the bylaw? Mr. Walker, Mr. Deneen, or Mr. This is Deneen. This is Beelan. I'm kind of tired. Mr. Beelan will be the seconder. Is there any questions? You've got the bylaw. I'll call a motion. All in favor. And that bylaw carries unanimous. Thank you. You can return to the table. And at this time, we have no notices of motion or new business. Any new business? Nothing. Bylaw to confirm the proceedings of this council meeting. Be it resolved that bylaw 2440, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the June 4th, 2024 council meeting, be presented and read a first, second, and third time, finally passed on the 4th day of June, 2024. That'll be moved by Deneen, Councillor Deneen, seconded by Councillor MacArthur. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Bylaw carries. Thank you very much. Anything else for the business of the township? Very good. Motion to adjourn. Be it resolved, council adjourn at, I haven't got a clock on the wall yet. 7:37, another aircraft reference. 7:37. Here we go. Mr. Deputy Mayor, Mr. Broderick, thank you. All those in favor? Okay, that carries. This council is adjourned. I'll see you all on Thursday at the Music Market and Park It.